Awesome. So welcome to the Cash Flow Empire, guys, where we host it every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Where what we like to do is we like to be very transparent about real estate. We like to talk about the dirty, ugly truth. Just to, you know, put aside some of the how sunshines or rainbows. A lot of groups make it seem. We like to talk about the truth and the pros and cons. And tonight we do have a really great friend of ours, by the way, Barbara. We've known Barbara for a while now. She's a part of the same community that we're from, which is the Sumrock community. And Barbara's very, very amazing. She's an awesome person, a very savvy investor. She's also got some really good dance moves, by the way. So yeah. We had a lot of fun at the holiday party. We were dancing together and it was a great time. Just being in these rooms, being able to hang out with the same like-minded individuals. With that being said, Barbara, welcome tonight and thank you so much for coming.
Well, excited to be here and thank you so much for inviting me. So, and again, like everybody, have the accent, right? So hopefully everybody, I didn't bring my translator today, but I hope it will all work out, right?
Nice. So just for starters, Barbara, we have a packed house of women tonight. So I think it's going to be a very great conversation. Because I know most of these individuals in here. A lot of the women in here are fairly new. They're learning about multifamily investing. If they're not, they're already doing single family investing. So Barbara, just get started on how you started your real estate journey. Where did it all start?
Well, it all started somebody asking me if I go to an investment seminar pretty much years back. And as a lot of us, my journey started in the single family field. So buying houses, flipping houses, renovating houses, building up a little rental portfolio. That's pretty much how everything started roughly over 20 years ago. And and pretty much, things developed from there. I think the other part, which I think is the little twist and made things different in trying to connect. And I was thinking back, okay, people asked me, okay, what makes things different? So how are you moving quicker? And I think one part is that I always ask for what I want. And I'm not afraid to hear a no. So it kind of like, sounds like maybe very basic and it's, but it really has helped. So giving you an example, when I started with the real estate investment and got really affiliated with the local investment organizations and association, I wanted to be introduced to the movers and shakers. So I was asking for that. With that, because my heart is always, as part of my heart, it's always aligned with community services. I wanted to see, what other, what is out there in regards to serving. And so I had actually the amazing opportunity to meet the founders of Habitat for Humanity. And so had a good conversation. They were not working for them anymore. That was Millard Fuller and his wife. And I was in the process of writing a book, or the first book, that was 2007. And so I asked, his wife to write the foreword to the book. So what I'm saying is sometimes you have to go for things and you have to ask for it. I was also serving on the board, so you have to give, right? Nothing comes from nothing, and you have to have a servant leadership mindset. And then you go and ask where it makes sense. So portion of the of the soul then went back to Habitat for, it was the Fuller Center for Housing at that point in time. But I think it's always ask for what you want. I think that's one of my big lessons. Don't be afraid to, to step back. It's going for what you want.
Awesome. And there is something really important that you mentioned right now about, offer yourself first before you start asking, right? So there is a really like nice quote that I hear all the time, and this is about, like, if you want to get a seat on the table, just serve water first. right? So
Mhm.
can you explain that, what this means to you?
Well, it means, there is, whatever you do, it has to be true to who you are. I think people, and specifically in this DNA, they don't want to have fake, right? There is a lot of noise out there, no matter what. But it is also people, watch you all the time. And whatever you do and whoever you are, it has to be real and true. There's nothing, from whatever angle, at whatever moment people see and perceive you, it has to be true to who you are. And it comes from your heart. I think that's the easiest way I can describe it, right? You have experienced me in all different parts. It's not, again, overall, I would think I have, it's a lot of positive mindset. I strive on vibration and positive energy. But there are days, you might not smile. However, it's always up to me. It's my choice what I make out of it, right? I can get down that drain or say, okay, good, let's, got it. Might not have been as perfect today, but I will make the best out of it. So that's my approach to life in general. I'm not
Nice.
trying to get down, on the downward spiral. So it's a lesson learned. It's okay. I have to listen to it. I have to understand, what I can do better. And then I move on from there to the next.
So you mentioned you mentioned something that I think a lot of people obviously they start in single family. You said you started with flips. How many years did you do the flips?
Yeah. So, and again, going back to the story is I come from corporate world. So I was setting up new organizations in corporate, and I was the alignment to the executives. So presenting feedback, connecting people, forming a team is something I have learned in corporate world. And then, also a little bit speaking and presenting and ensuring, team stays aligned. At a certain point, I was managing over 300 people at a global level, right? With management segments in between. So that is, a skill set I learned, and I could, transferable skill set. You can move on to wherever you're going and whatever you're doing. And I think one thing I would like, to put out there, everybody has transferable skill sets, no matter, what the experience is in our lives. But it is important to understand them and highlight them for ourselves. Sometimes we forget, right? Sometimes we forget, but there's a lot there.
Perfect. No, thank you.
So I'm not sure now. I lost a little bit the train of thought on your question. If you want to repeat it,
Go ahead, Sergio.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of ask you, like, I think because you mentioned that you started with the fix and flips.
And fix and flips, how long I did it? Not as long with the flips overall. I did most probably like 6 or 7, but I was really turning then some of them. And I was also in that market when the big crash happened. Right, so it was really around that time where the whole real estate market went downwards, and and again, but it's also good to be in the cycles, because the pendulum always swings, right? It's not an even line. There's always something happen. And so what I did, and where some of the houses were supposed to be flips, they were converted to holds. Right. And, holding sometimes from a longer time. And I'm not sure who said it. I think it was Barbara Cochran in an interview, that, a lot of people think, it's the price point where you buy, but actually sometimes a lot depends also location, right, is a key element, no matter where and what type of real estate we're talking about. So it's the appreciation over time, which also makes a huge difference, right? I sold, like, in the last couple of years, most probably like 1 property a year. And, and these investments, some of them have doubled, some had even partially tripled during that time, right? And it was pretty safe. There were a time where I had to even add, something to the mortgage payment, where some time, but at the end, it's a long term. And I think with real estate, we have to sometimes think long term. even so the concept might be only for 5 years, but we have to plan 10 years out, right? What is plan A? What is plan B? What is plan C? So we are not like, caught in the rattle of the market. And so we can ride out some of the waves, so we can hopefully sell at the highest point in the market. That was the strategy, from a single family perspective. But yeah, I hope that answered the question. So most probably like, 2 or 3 years, but then I was stopped. Then I really did more on the investment side. I did some flips, I did a combination. So I did flips and holds, flip and hold. So that was the combination.
That's still a while. I mean, that's 3 years of getting your hands dirty, getting in the flips. And I mean,
And I
think
have done it all. I have laid the floors. I have installed kitchens. I finished the plumbing. And, I was reading the book.
Oh God. So you were actually getting your hands dirty, literally. I didn't know
Not
that
doing
one.
that anymore, right? But what I'm saying is, the first investment was pretty much the worst scenario. It's pretty much what you're reading in the books, right? So it's like everything went sour, from the contractor in jail to somebody running with some of your money. So a lot of people said, okay, I have enough. That's it, right? It's too hard. It's too complicated. But I think that's the other part, right? It has to be harder and complicated. Otherwise, everybody would do it, right? So you have to be willing to step in if you had to. And funny story there, if you ever have worked on sheetrock and you have no experience, and you sand it, you look like a snowman. So that's what my husband on the second date, he saw me completely as a snowman, right? All over in sheetrock. So here we go. We're married, so it did not scare him away.
Awesome. No, thank you, Barbara. And you mentioned earlier, Barbara, that you came from the corporate world, right? So what kind of skill sets do you think that you took from that corporate that is actually helping you to achieve success in real estate right now?
Well, I think the interesting part is that I was in corporate, but I was never really I was in the mothership, but when I was pulled back into the mothership, I pretty much was ready to leave. But what I was hired for was setting up new organizations. So that was my skill set. My skill set was to start something from scratch, to hire the team, and to build everything up. The only difference was the money was given to me, right? I had to stay in my budget, but honestly, that I had to run the budget, but I had never to worry to receive the money, if that makes sense. So, but the setup of the organization and hiring high performers, that I think was one skill set. Managing team, and that's a transferable skill set you can utilize in a lot of different areas.
Wow, that is amazing. And before I go to Sergio again, I would like a little bit, and I don't know if I'm allowed to mention this, but you told me before, when we met, that you're actually doing something like as an angel investor, right?
Yes, I do that.
So do you think that you can
too.
speak a little bit about it, because that calls my attention a lot. I was like, wow, can you just tell me about what is it?
Well, if I think about vision, right? My vision is a legacy build down the road. So if I visualize and I close my eyes and I see myself, down the road, 20 years from now, I would like, to make certain element of impact in the world in different ways. So I have the opportunity to cooperate, but also to network of people and friends to be aligned with a lot of entrepreneurs. And with some of them, it goes back, 20 years, 25 years, and they started their own businesses. So I know I have followed their journey, and some of them, one, particularly, they are developing a disruptive technology setup in the cosmetic industry, right? Completely different, but it's a lot about patents and the best alignments. And so, they are now ready to move, their first production to the US. All of that right now is set up in Europe, but it is coming now to the US. And so they are kind of like now have secured the warehousing in a collaborative approach, and also have already some merchant funding for the production, which is interesting. So when I had the opportunity and I was reviewing that concept and trusting the person I know, I said, okay, this is a great opportunity I wanted to invest in. The other one I am evaluating right now is actually a former friend from corporate world who has developed software solution, and he's mainly in the nonprofit space. And the first one is already route, but there's a phase 2 element in regards to fundraising again, but it's all in the nonprofit area. So we are talking about this opportunity and also my involvement, in that part. I think you have to believe in that concept, I think, and into the people, which leads again to multifamily, right? At the end, it is very important, to believe in the team who is managing the asset and is bringing the deal.
So I have an important question. Obviously, you've done the flips, you've done the hard work and the hands-on yourself. What made you want to jump into multifamily? I mean, I know that transition's very different. It's a whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother world. And I think a lot of people that are in here tonight, have a different why, or maybe they kind of like me. I just went straight into multifamily, and I didn't even really, do no single family work. Now that I'm kind of reverse engineering it and going, backtracking a little bit, I am noticing that it's a completely different ball game. It's a different lingo. But hey, John, I don't know if you want to mute.
Got it. Keep going.
What was I gonna say? Damn, I lost my train of thought. I get distracted easily. So the transition from single family into multifamily was, well, how was that for you? And what made you make that jump? It's obviously a different world.
Well, I think it's the same element when you are an entrepreneur, right? And I also run my own company. So, which actually, no, my team is now running it. Luckily, that was one of my major goals, is to really get out of the day-to-day operation and move forward. But I think for me personally, COVID was a game changer in regards to be in this single alignment. And I think when I was exposed to different concepts, and similar to you, Sergio, right, and Jonathan, we talked about, Jonathan, I'm not by Sergio, no, I come from nothing, right? My family, they were, they lost everything in the war. And so they pretty much, started over and with nothing. And I was taught to, to focus. I was taught to get a good education, but I was never taught how to make money. And what I'm saying is, this is, really that concept has been, I have been exposed to that concept later down in life, in the last couple of years, because I looked at, making money differently. It's work hard, getting there, but that's not really how it works. And it is a collaborative approach. That's, I think, is the most important part. For me, is really finding the right team, the people you are vibrating at the same level, and the team you can trust. I am very strong on how we are communicating with each other. And I feel no matter what is happening, there has to be a line. So people who are shouting and easily getting upset and cannot deal with conflict most probably won't be in alignment with how I deal. Things can happen. You have to own, you have to keep the responsibility, but I don't have to call people names. I don't have to lose my temper. we have to find solutions. So it has to be solution driven. And again, in that collaborative approach, it can't be, it's not a me game, it's an us game. And I feel strongly, whatever I'm assessing now, it is how could I move forward quicker by collaborating versus me running that game. With that, you have to give up a certain element of control and have to allow others, like in the team, to align with that vision and mission. But I think that's the most important part. So we can't jump too quickly. We have to really assess and monitor. If I watch somebody, I watch them for a while, right? Talked about how is the vibration. We're watched all the time. So is that person true of what that person is saying, right? That's where it comes down to as well. And we know in multifamily how the asset is managed has a huge impact on the final result.
I love the way you talk. When you start talking to people in real estate and in multifamily, and we've had some very brilliant women on our podcast, I just love the way y'all think, just thinking bigger, very sophisticated, very teamwork. And you said something, you said something that kind of, you said you learn how to make money. And I think we even have a comment, you need to learn how to make money. And it just kind of sparked something in my head. It sparked a thought about me. I kind of put myself in a situation where we're all taught, well, we all want everything very fast. We all want to make money, right? But we're never taught how to make money. We're not taught how to invest. I kid you not, it was these last 2 years by hanging around with people in this room. My partner's obviously Jonathan. You can only get so far with OPM. You can only do so much. At the end of the day, though, you got to really learn how to invest. You got to get educated on how to invest your own money, whether it's, finding a side hustle or working overtime to save up, to invest into real estate, to be able to create that generational wealth. So that kind of leads to my next question. And my bad, Jonathan, if I cut you off. I know you're ready to go on the question. But what advice do you give to people in this room, that are trying to get started in creating that generational wealth? Because we all get pitched the idea of, investing, single family investing, multifamily. What advice you got for us, for those that are barely getting started in the world of investing in general, that have kids that probably want to create that generational wealth?
Well, everything starts with also understanding how we are spending our money and the habits we're having, and realigning with that. And honestly, if I go back, we downsized, and I moved 3 times in the last 3 years. From big house to smaller to smaller to smaller. And the interesting part is that if we're really assessing what is most important, it's not the stuff, right? It counts, the people, the family, some of the values overall. And sometimes we get caught into all of the bling of things for, how we are. So I think if we have a clear goal and understand the purpose, then it is so much easier, to put this money aside for the next investment, but it has to be strategically aligned, right? So I think there has to be a vision and a goal for why we're doing it. So I think the first element is to really understand your why. And it's a harder one, but as an example, like I create my vision board every year. And also, thanks to Migena and also Brooke, I saw her popping up at a certain point parties. I had one of these big goals for me this year was really being involved in some book publishing and book collaborations. And that was my goal. So I had this on my vision board. And I strongly believe you have to put it out there, right? At a certain point, what is your next? Which is like my whole concept is, really moving, what's the next, right? Moving over this hump to what is the next. And then you have to go for this goal, right? Focused. So that was the book, book publishing. So now it's 3. I actually have 2 more offers. I'm not sure if with 3, it's still, I think I'm good for this year. But what I say, what you start, things evolving around it, and you never know, whom you meet and what the next opportunity is. So in our business, we're in the interior home staging world, we work with a lot of celebrities, right? So we have a lot of, celebrity clients, and it is, so this is interesting. Some of them you cannot even talk. So we have one right now, his condo will sell because of the name, right? Because somebody will say, I have this condo. So anyhow,
Yeah.
but again, coming back to what it is, you have to have a goal. You have to really focus on what it is, and you have go and ask, right? And I think specifically with women, I think it is a part is, that collaboration and connecting and supporting each other, I think is a big part. Is a big part. But here, don't get me wrong. For me, there's a huge difference between friendship and also going for my goal. Let's say my best friend and I, the two ladies, would apply for the same position. I would not expect her not to give her best. The best person wins, but that has nothing to do with our friendship. And I think sometimes there is a misconception between friendship, collaboration, and support and going for your goal. One has nothing to do with the other, but we also have to be clear in how we communicate that.
Love it, love it. Thank you, Barbara, for sharing that. It was something really like, it kind of stuck in my mind earlier when you mentioned about the story of your family, and they lost everything, and they didn't teach you anything about how to make money, right? So for somebody like me, or I'm sure some other people are gonna be related to this question, but we have this mindset from our parents for 20, 25, 30, 40 years, right? And now to be able to change the mindset, now to think bigger, to take action, to your vision board. Like, do you have any advice about how you can transition the 20-year mindset and then just maybe change your life in just maybe 3 or 5 years?
You have to get out. You have to absolutely get out of your comfort zone. What I did, and also, luckily you have some people you're following, and they are your, that's I want to be her, right? Everybody has something. I like that, so I want to go this direction. There's a motivation around, and it is getting out of your comfort zone. It's, in my industry, I have been known. I had my name, pretty much like, awards, blah, 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 blah. When I go there, it's comfortable, right? You're established, you have a name, it's nice. I went out into rooms where I didn't know anybody, right? You start from scratch again. You are the little fish in the pond, and you are finding, your new part. You listen to different messages. You definitely invest in your education, which I always do. And I have my coach, if that is on this, on the personal side, if that is on the business side, or doing my sport, right? There's some coaching, there's always something to learn, and I invest in myself. I also feel strongly, never feel comfortable in your seat. Like every year I do something I never have done before. If that is a singing lesson, that was for my mom's 60th birthday. And trust me, you don't want to hear me sing here. So this is not my forte. But I had a coach, and he taught me, and I performed. I was nervous like a wreck. I couldn't eat anything, but I think I did okay. Diane Warwick, that's what friends are for. So that's what I was doing, and it was okay. It was okay. I did, 1 year I learned scuba diving. Other one, I was diving with the sharks. 1 year, I was learning, I was younger at that point, did the cross-country motorcycle thingy. I hiked Machu Picchu. This year, I started skeet shooting. So I'm now skeet shooting, and I am invited for a competition in September. So I have my trainer, and I do some shooting every 2 weeks. So I learned that. And for years, right, I had, I never would have touched a pistol at all, right? I had this love-hate relationship. But sometimes it's also overcoming a certain element of fear. And I really like that target. It's like very focused, and you have to be precise, and you also have to listen, towards instructions. And that's that's a big part. So get out of your comfort zone, and also assess who is around you, right? There's, great people say it's the 5 people surrounding you will define who you will become. So I encourage just to get out of this comfort zone and reassess, who is the one, who is the group you need around you.
I love that you said that, Barbara, because I've been in this game for about 2 years, and I like to tell everybody, like, and literally Michelle, I see Michelle Gonsman's in here, Jonathan, we all met at the same time. And it was hard to leave Florida. I left a Grant Cardone event. It was hard to leave Florida to come back to Dallas and to get back to my everyday life. It's kind of like the motivation and the drive was kind of just rubbing off. Like, it was just kind of like, because this is all I knew. All I knew was partying, coming back home, partying with the same old people, doing the same old things. And I guess I want to ask the question, what do you do to stay locked in? I mean, you just described all the things you need to do, be uncomfortable. And now at this point, I'll learn how to be uncomfortable every single day. Me and Jonathan are super uncomfortable. We're always meeting every day. Like, dude, what do we got to do? How are we going to get free? We're literally like, my eyes are burning right now because of just how tired we are and stressed, and we're just always on the go, right? Sometimes it feels like there's not enough hours in a day. And, I wake up at 4 a.m., try to sleep by 10 every day. But how do you stay driven? Like, what are some of the things to kind of help you stay in your lane, to probably, that gets you through your days, and to just, because it's tough. I know what it's like to, not be in the lane.
Yeah. Well, and I have been, yes, there are phases where there is, a core focus, and you to the finish line. I understand that, but there has to be the recharging time as well. I'm a strong believer, right? I'm a strong believer that there has to be time for recharging as well. However, the key part, we can go to any event and be motivated. We can be entertained all the time. Unless we take action, nothing is happening. Unless we're committing, nothing is happening. And then we need people surrounding us who hold us accountable. Right? The part is, we can say all day long, if there's no action, nothing will happen. We can sit in the same, but the counterpart of that is that we also have to have patience. Right? Only jumping to jump is not the answer either, right? We have to put the education in, we have to understand, what's the right deal. And that is for both sides. If you want to, if you're going for a GP position and or an investor, and I'm both, right? So that's how I am both. And I feel there's value in both areas. But it is, it's continuing being both, but you have to understand the numbers. I think, I call it out. We have to find it a little bit. We have to find numbers a little bit more sexier. And maybe that's, something we have to also, as we are learning, women might learn a little bit different, and look at the numbers a little bit different. And it has to be maybe a little bit, different explained. But they are very key. They are key. They are important, right? When I started to write the first book, that was the Venus approach to real estate investing, and interviewed all of this successful real estate investor women in the US during that time. At that point, only 30% of women were in the investment game. And out of that, the majority is in their midlife. Now, over 20 years later, a couple of later, nothing has changed dramatically. So we still have, a huge shift between, the women and the men, in the investment part. We see now younger women coming in, which I love, right? So there's more interest. There's definitely some change happening, but the percentage has not increased, dramatically in these years. But I hope that with more education and more information and more messaging, that this will change, down the road. And it's nice to see all of these amazing women out there being interested to learn to make changes in their lives towards the future. And, I believe, I wanted to understand concept. So I'm not an immediate jumper, which I think most of the women are not immediately jumping. It most probably takes a little bit longer in general, not on everybody. However, the investment in the concept, the understanding is a good part. If they get the grip, we can outperform, right? We can outperform. If we got it, we're going for it, right? Full blown, full blown.
Now y'all got it. Y'all got it. Huge shout out to all the women in here tonight, though. Like for real, y'all are very much appreciated. I know I see my girl Brooke in the house, just killing it in the chat, and she's amazing, by the way. If you haven't connected with her, you need to meet her. This down to earth woman, and she's awesome. So yeah, I do see a lot of women coming more into investing in the multifamily. I love how it's growing, and I love empowering women. And there's a lot of great women in this room, guys and ladies and gents. If I have a question for Barbara, whether it's mindset, whether it's where should I get started, raise your hand. And if we can just do me a big favor, she's dropping some bombs tonight. I think, experience is everything, because everybody goes through investments a different route. Everybody has their own personal story, and I think that's what makes everyone unique in their own way. When it comes down to investing, and just her background on how Barbara started is amazing. How she even said, like, we come from nothing. I know a lot of people can relate to that. So just guys, ladies and gents, if y'all can just put some fire and show Barbara some love tonight, and put some claps in the chat, put some fires. And if y'all have any questions, please raise your hand. Come on stage. I know we got one from Diana. So we'll get her on, and then if you're too shy to come on stage, type your question in the chat, and we can go from there. So Diana, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Barbara. Thank you for being on tonight. Definitely love your story. There's a lot of stuff that I can actually relate to. I actually have 3 questions for you.
Go for it.
I know you mentioned getting out of your comfort zone, right? So that's me currently. How did you getting out of your comfort zone, but how did you cope with that? Like, obviously me coming from a small town, now being in a bigger city, this is all new to me, and it's just having a hard time kind of cope with it. And then did you ever have any fear? Because that's me, like I'm having all these different kind of emotions, trying to cope with all of this, right? And then also in real estate, because I'm in the process of going into real estate. So it's just, this is out of my comfort zone. So it's like, I've thought like, okay, I've sat down, wrote stuff down, my goals, like, what do I have, right? I have a vision, what I want to do. And then you said patience. To me, the key is patience, which I've had to learn that now that I'm here. Because I'm a person that I'm like, I'll take action, because a lot of people know that that's what I did. That's how I got here. But it's like patience, I've had to learn the patience, right? But just coping into this new comfort zone, how did you do that?
I think everybody has fear. I have fear too. The part is it's that concept of overcoming, and that part is that doing it, right? It's the first step. We are thinking about, like, children. as they are, how often are they falling down until they can do their first steps, right? You're not starting to run, right? It's like you have to fall down. Sometimes it hurts a little bit. We have to brush it off, and you go again, and you go again. I had been in competition when I was younger, ice skating and roller skating. So ice skating, like you have your jumps and you fall, and you have to get up and you have to brush it off. And when you're in a competition, you fall and it hurts, but you still have to smile, right? So here we go. It is, yes, something hurts, but it is getting up, brushing it off, and continuing, right? That's the name of the game in so many ways. And then the other part is what's the worst, what can happen, right? When I'm in this part is sometimes I write it down. So what's really the worst thing, what can happen? So if I do that, what's the worst thing, what can happen? It might not work immediately, but there's always something to learn. And I think now I have to think about, I think it's Tony Robbins, who said that whenever you have a goal, right, you should divide them into two goals. The one goal is what you wanted to accomplish, right? If that is the number, if that, whatever you want to hit. The other goal is what you learn on the way. You might not hit your goal, but it's still a win, right? If the goal is high, that's okay. But there's more than only one goal, right? So therefore, there's always the motivation. And the other part is enjoy the moment of the little wins, right? Sometimes we want to, we are not patient, we want to be there. I am an example of that. I have sometimes a hard time to celebrate my wins because I already want to be there and it takes longer. But I think it is so important because these little wins, they give you energy and, allow it to happen, the little gifts to ourselves, the little rewards. And then continue learning and reading. I always ask, so what's the best book you were reading? And then think about great questions you can ask when you have a moment with a person, right? The special question to ask, and that can definitely move you forward too. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Diana, for your question. So, Barbara, you mentioned earlier about teams, right? Because coming from the angel investor side, it needs to be some trust. And before I let the ask question to Yolanda and also Gabriel. So, what are those three things? So, how would you vet teams or partners in business? What are those three things that you look for a good partner?
Well, part is, are we aligning in our vision down the road? Making money and is one element, but what is the impact? What is your legacy thought? What is your legacy drive? What is the additional impact you want to make in life? Are we aligning in the way we're communicating? Are we aligning in how we see and how we visualize? Like, coming from Germany, one of my thoughts is you have the majority of people are renting, not owning. So it's a whole different concept. It's a whole different ball game there. But there is certain elements. So I would like to see more community thinking also in the investment strategy. Example, and there are tools, there's a lot of opportunities out there. You have a security deposit, but you also get elements of points because you maintain your apartment very well. You are making sure everything is clean. And whoever had a conversation with me in one-to-one, I was sharing that prior. But think about that, whatever you're putting in and the time you are there and you're paying your rent, when you're leaving at a certain point, you might not only get your security deposit back, but an additional reward on top for maintaining the property, right? Investing, maybe having an additional say, and you might invest in that building too, in little elements, for whatever it is. It doesn't have to be big, but I think figuring out different ways to build community in in a setting, as an example. Can be different elements, but that is one vision. What is the impact you want to make also on in the community, in setting it? It's not purely investment, right? When we're talking, sometimes you talk stock market and it's cutthroat business, right? It's about the money, it's about the improvement, it's about putting it up and selling, and out we go. I think life is changing, and I want to have an alignment in community impact as well. So that is very dear and important to me in how I align with people and in their vision towards the future.
Love it, love it. And I think that we
and
have
so this is
question from,
interview.
yes.
And then of course, then a big element is skill set, right? You have to have the right skill set. But attitude is another part, right? Attitude, it's the same in how you're hiring team. One bad seed can completely destroy everything. One person who is constantly overpowering can change the whole, way the team functions. So it's very important to understand where everybody is and have a lot of talk. So don't jump immediately, really assess people.
Love it, love it. Thank you for sharing that, Barbara. And we have a Yolanda Carey, so you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, and welcome.
Yes, hi. So I think my question is kind of Barbara, what you talked about a little bit about knowing the people on your team. And I guess that was my question. How important is it to know the people like on your GP team? So for instance, and I'll just give you my example. I was asked to explore, whether I want to be on a GP team. Now I know the person that asked me that, but I don't know them very well. I just know them because, I've seen them in the community and, we've talked a little bit and so on and so forth, but I don't know who else would be on the team that I would even know. So how important is that to know the people that you're going to be in community with?
I think it is very important. Me personally, I would not jump if I only know one person.
Right.
I want to know more. I want to know the skill set. I want to know their track record. I want to know how, the experience. And I feel, because at the end, it is, you want to be successful, and you only can be as successful as the weakest link on the team, right? So that's, it's the same with everything else in business. Definitely date, assess them, ask a lot of questions, and interview them all.
Okay, good. Thank you.
That would be, that is my approach, right? That's how I look at it. So I take it definitely from every angle. You don't want to, I not only jumping. Now, from a pure investment perspective, right? The track record comes, it's more important. But if you're working with a team, that's it is key, it is important. But the same is for investments, right? There are certain investments I personally wouldn't invest in because they are not aligning with my strategy and vision for life. And that's okay, right? So that's okay. It's the same. Not everybody has to love me. That's okay. Not everybody has to like me. That is okay. But I want to align with the people I have vibration with. I'm not doing business with anybody I'm not vibrating at a certain element. I am at a point in my life to say no. When I started my business, I was, catching, on and was trying to catch the deal and the next deal. Now I look at things a little bit different, and I'm much more selective, and it's okay. I'm okay. For me, it's okay to say no. It's just fine.
Okay, thank you so much.
And for those of you that don't know what she was talking about, by the way, we're talking about GPs and LPs, guys. So whenever we take down these multifamily assets, anywhere from like 60 plus, 40 plus units, you can't do it alone. And it requires a solid team to take down these assets. So Yolanda's question was really like, how is it that, when you get invited to one of these teams, just really vetting out, how the importance of vetting out these individuals. And Brooke, I started laughing because Brooke in the chat date them first, don't just partner up with someone because they're cool. Everything can be all like cool at the beginning, but when shit hits the fan, on in a serious situation, things can change, and you gotta know that you guys are going to be able to get through those issues and those problems together as a team. So that's what Barbara was explaining, how important it is to really choose wisely. How is it that you're choosing these partners? So, Gabrielle, go ahead. Welcome to the stage, and thank you for coming every Tuesday, girl.
Hey, Barbara, so good to
Hey,
see
hey.
you.
Good to see you
Yeah.
too, Gabrielle.
Yeah. So, my question is from a female point of view, how do you ask for what you want, despite of what society say about when we ask for what we want as women?
Well, I think one big element for me is never lose your independence. I have made that, and again, going back, in my early years, when I was 18, I was in a little bit an abusive relationship, and that taught me one lesson, that this will never, ever, ever happen to me again. So that was one definite choice I made, and from there on, I always kept finances and decisions in a certain element separate. So sometimes you go in, it's like one. For me, in my relationship, in my marriage, it's always, I have my account, he has his account, and we have our account. My husband is a stock market guy, right? So he is investing, and he has done well, with he's coming from the hedge fund, business side. So he knows that very well, but he is the stock market, I'm the real estate girl, right? Always have been. So that's my part. But we always have made our own decisions in regards to certain elements of investment, and how he's investing his is our money, but his element of the money of what he, and how I invest mine. And there's no conversation about it. Never give up your independence in regards to how, to write your check and, do everything. And I think that is a very, very important element. And it's also one of my vision and mission in continuing to educate out there, and never lose the independence. And honestly, it doesn't matter in what, how much, this happens throughout. It doesn't matter how less or much you earn. This is a challenge throughout. And, my goal is, to educate and encourage, and think about, never give up your independence. It's key, right? It's always, and contribution too. When my son was born, yes, I took a break. Somebody has, doesn't matter if that is him or if that is she, right? So there has to be a certain adjustment and alignment, but never give up your independence. If that is also your friends, right? I do my vacation alone. I'm going out with the girls. Nobody tells me that I can't do that.
Love it, Barbara. That's why we named this podcast show The Lady Boss. You guys hear Barbara tonight. Oh, that was amazing. I hope that you guys have a lot of fun. So, Barbara, you want to share a piece of advice for somebody that maybe is having problems to not just to take action, right? That they are just having a lot of fear, or they don't know where to start, right? So do you have any advice for somebody that would like to follow your journey?
It's and again, I can only repeat, and it's a little bit different. Messages are heard differently depending on where we are in our journey. Certain messages, certain books I have written, or I was reading 10 years ago, would not have any meaning to me now. And messages I have read in the past now have a different meaning to me, because where I am right now, I'm looking for something different, and I find the answers, for it. But you have to get out of your comfort zone. I think if there's one part, is you have to get out of your comfort zone, And you have to also, you have to invest in yourself. That's, I think, is a key part for me. I feel strongly that is important. And again, it's like, if you want to grow, you have to let go. There's a lot of things you have to say no to as well. And, some of that might be also friends, might be, Sergio, you mentioned the partying. And, you definitely have put that aside because the priorities have shifted towards, other things who are more important in life. And so that's the part is, wherever we say yes to, we have to say no to something else too. Like a door only opens if we allow, the space. If there are 25 doors, we don't know which one we want to go to next, right? So the part is we have to listen to ourselves. And again, don't be easily attracted only to the shiny objects. And there has to be substance behind in regards to an element of learning. I hope that helped.
We have a
Melissa.
last question. Melissa, welcome. You're muted. Here, let me see if we can unmute you. No, I can't do it. There we go.
Okay. I did it. So it's so good to hear from you, Barbara. So many good points, very valid. But my question is, I was hoping somebody would ask. No, I'm just kidding. What about when it comes to a mentor? Like, what are you looking for in a mentor? Do you feel that, obviously a mentor is necessary, especially when you're trying to stay focused, when you're being the generational breaker, chain breaker to things that you're not used to, right? So if there's some things that we haven't learned in the past, from our own, right? Not shaming them or anything, but sometimes they just don't know, right? They weren't conditioned that way. So how do we go about a mentor, or what do we look for in a mentor,
And again, unfortunately, it's hard to give I only can be generic because I don't know exactly what you are looking for. But it's coming down to interviewing again, right? So you're kind of like listening to the messages and what is really calling to you. As an example, Jonathan mentioned 10x, right? And I can tell you in the beginning, I was very reluctant to even go to any of this event because, Grant is big, right? He is big and he is loud, but he has an amazing message to tell. And sometimes we have to overcome ourselves, right? We can't only see that. So it's okay, what's really the message? Because if you hear him speak in a different environment, the message is very clear, but you have to be ready for it because he's thinking big. So his thinking sometimes was too big for me, but it was amazing from a motivational perspective. So it took me to listen to Ed Milet and him talking about the power of one more to change, because that message resonated with me. Because I can do one more call, I can do one more step, I can do one more push-up, I can do one more, right? That one more is something, and that leads to 10x too, right? But I think the key is that you have to I know I have to change my wording around that. But listening to yourself and what resonates with you is the key. What's the next? Because if it's too big, then you cannot, it's hard to reach it, right? Because mentally, you cannot visualize, right? It's the same part. You have to be trusting it. You say, I can do that. Yes, right? That's the part. So what's the message you need now? Who is sending this message? And you say, yes, I think this is it, right? That's what I was searching for. So if that helps. So sometimes it's the packaging. So what resonates with, what is the type of person, what resonates with you in that messaging? What's the type of communication methodology which helps you to move forward? You know, I give you one example, and I know we're over time. You can cut me off. Can I still share something? Are we still good?
Yeah, we're good. We're
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah, we're good.
So I am, you know, I mentioned I'm aligned with charities, and I'm looking at, you know, opportunities, you know, with this charity alignments as well, and what they are, you know, how everything is connecting. So there's a retreat here in Georgia. You know, Sapria is my chosen charity for this business of speaker and masterminder, Barbara, and investor. And they are helping stabilized women who, mainly women who have been, you know, abused. But it's, you know, and so that's a setup. So you can go and find a lot of people and get some help, but this is self-help. And the self-help is what really drives the change, because it has to come from inside you. Sometimes you can listen to messages and, you know, you can talk to your therapist, but it might not move the needle unless you find the way to help yourself out of it and you're motivated. So when I was listening to, you know, that concept and what they are doing in this self-help environment, it resonated with me, because I said, yes, I see this, right? Because this is enabling change, and it has impact, because now it's not only you're talking to somebody, now there's a motivation to get out of that circle and moves the needle moving forward to something else. So
That's good. So long story short, align
yes,
with what stays true to you within.
yeah.
What's calling you, what's
But set the
vibrating.
goal, right? So setting the goal, but what is it where you can visualize it, right? Because we have to visualize it. It's like when I mentioned the vision board, right? And you have your pictures up there, and then your goals, right? You know, what is talking to you, and, you know, what are you putting up? I have my vision board and my goals on my computer, and they are kind of like rotating. So I see them every day. And what our brain can see is what we're going for. And that is, you know, it's interesting, but if we set the goal out and it's there in front of us every day, it has impact in how we're looking at things. So that might be something, you know, but that you have to know what your goals are, and then put them in front of you all the time. Because interestingly, you know, that's where we're going. It's the same, you know, I'm beautiful, I'm tall, I'm here, right? I'm out there, I'm confident, right? It's the same. If you say it and you smile, you know, it's trusting in this. It's this little moment. I do that, you know, before I go on stage or I do something, I have like my power position. I said, yay, I do that right now, right? Here we go, here. Energy pumping up, you know, everybody out there, you know, who you see who are motivating, and you know, you have to have something which is driving you to get out, and, you know, it comes from within.
That's amazing.
Yes, power pose.
Yes, empowerment women.
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Barbara. I really appreciate it.
Welcome.
That was good. That was great. I think there was one more question. I think Ashley Solano had a question, but she hasn't posted it or raised her hand.
Yeah, I know. She said that she has a question, but
I don't know how to raise my hand.
They want to come on the stage.
I don't know where it is.
What's up, girl?
Hi. What's up? Let me ask my question, because I know I'm probably going over the time. But I do work for a corporate currently, and I am a corporate trainer. So my job is to go to different counties throughout the United States and pretty much build a team, train them, and then leave. So I know that you did that, which is so cool that tonight I'm on and I'm getting to talk to someone that's done that and has accomplished that. But my question is, how long did you stay in that role? And do you wish you would have gotten out of it sooner and started investing sooner? That's my question.
You know, here's the part is, what would I tell my younger self, right? That's pretty much the question, you know, you are asking too. So yes, I wished I would have been exposed to certain concepts much earlier in my life. On the other side, I wouldn't know if I would be ready for it at that point in time, right? So there's always this one or the other. But the answer is always now, right? So now is the right time because now I'm exposed, now I'm ready. So moving, I'm moving forward with the power of the information I have now. And I am grateful that, that there's the opportunity there to do that and drive the change. Yes, I would have loved, I would have started earlier, but I was not exposed to that concept. So there was not the motivation for me to change that needle. I was busy building my empire of my own business, right? That's what I did. So for me, the angel investment came first. Real estate investment came after, but they align, right? They align because it's in the same, at the end, it is, it's the power team.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Welcome, Ashley.
Jimmy Lou to the stage. What's up, man? Jimmy from Seattle.
Hey, Sergio. Hey, Barbara. Thanks for coming to us, and a very inspiring story. I would love to know, because you were mentioning earlier, your goal is building a business. Eventually, is to remove yourself in the operation side.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna tell yourself, a younger self again, what will be like 3 source of information you wish you know in order to automate your business a little faster?
To let go. And I think, part is listening to what experts are saying. As a business owner, you have this 100 or 120% mindset of how, performance and, how great it is. Understanding and accepting that in general, if you have team, if they're performing at 75, 80%, you already have a pretty high success rate, in general. And how much do this 20% really change the needle, move the needle to get to this 100% perfection and that it's done a certain way? How much is that impacting the bottom line, your revenue? So letting go from your concept and, now whatever I do is, my first question is, how can I, as quickly as possible, replace myself in what I'm doing? How can I set up a system? How can I set up an element of process and try to outsource everything somebody else can do so that I can focus on what I can do best? So that's, for me, the biggest learning. I wished I would have done that much earlier, but I was holding on in this control moment. And I should have done that earlier. I was always good in building team, but from an entrepreneurial perspective, this expectation setting is the other part is hire fire, and fire quick if it's not working out. I think I have most probably hold on too long several times with certain people because I like them too much. Now I tell them I might cry and I'm okay. We are told to be strong, and I'm strong, but I can cry. I can cry because I like you as the person, and it's very sad for me to see you go, but it's not working out for the business. And for the business, I have to make the decision. So even so, I am sad to see you go and all of this impact there. I'm there, and you might see me crying, but it doesn't mean that it will change anything in my decision making. So be true to who you are. And I think that's for me my main part. I'm true. I am not hiding. I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. I relate. I like people. I like you as the person, but I have high expectation of what I'm expecting in the job too. And if that is not working out and people are not performing, then I have to make a decision because I do bad on everybody else on the team.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
So in other words, Jimmy, fire, just fire without emotion. Awesome. John, you got something you want to say?
No, it was a lot of good questions from everybody, right? So thank you,
Yes,
Barbara. I
great.
just wanna
Thank
say-
you. Thank you.
So right now, before we let this closings, we're going to our breakout room. So I'll let Sergio finish this amazing show. I hope you guys had a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah, guys, once
glad
again,
to be here.
thank you, Barbara, once again for taking the time out of your day. It was an amazing call. I think, you know, our goal is to at least impact one person, you know, in this room. And if it's just one person out of the 40, 50, 60s people that we've had, and for the many, many more that are going to watch this podcast online, then, you know, that's all we want to do. So Barbara, thank you for being such an inspiration in this industry, and just you're amazing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and you know, and I'm looking forward to see the journeys, right? You know, part is like at a certain point, maybe there's like a year from now, is going back and see, okay, now what was the progress everybody made, right? So, you know, write something down, put an action plan into place, and have somebody who holds you accountable for it.